Yeah, everybody, welcome to another episode of Cream Podcast, episode 9. I want to just give a shout out. Hope everybody's having a good January as we're getting closer and closer to spring, NFL playoffs, NBA. Klay Thompson is officially back playing with the Warriors, which is an awesome time. So these are very good times to be alive.
All right, now let's stop right there. Now, with Klay, with Steph, with the whole team, they have a bunch of good supporting players now. Andrew Wiggins used to be a joke. Now he's actually balling. You think they're going to win it this year?
They're going to win it. That is a huge prediction. We're going to win it. It's not going to be the Lakers. It's not going to be the Celtics. It's definitely not going to be the Nets who can't play no defense. The Warriors is going to back to the championship. We're going to win a chip.
Now, why you got to bring the Celtics into it just to twist the knife in my back, huh?
Just to twist it. Twist it.
They're awful. They have so much talent, but they're awful. They just haven't learned to play together. But so, all right, let's put your money where your mouth is. What are we going to bet here on the Warriors winning the chip? You got the Warriors. I got the field. I got everyone else.
we're going to bet. We're going to bet a beer. We're going to bet a beer for that.
All right, you got it. Now, does that mean you fly down to Costa Rica to, take me out to the bar for a beer, or how's that going to work?
That sounds like a plan. Everybody, you have that recorded. I would take them out for a beer in Costa Rica.
There it is. There it is. Well, let's see what the Warriors do, but we know what we're going to do today. We have a lot of great stuff for you on the Cream Podcast. All right, Jason, now we talked a lot about the stock market, investing, what decisions to make, retirement, what you should do with your money, inflation, the economy, on and on and on. But what we forget about sometimes is educating the next generation about financial literacy. And that's so important, or else they're doomed to make the same mistakes that we often make. So you have some unfortunate and alarming stats about financial literacy, particularly among teens, correct?
Yeah, as teens about to become adults is very interesting stats we have. So the one interesting stat we have is 1 in 5 teens lack a basic foundation to build on for financial literacy, which is alarming. So 1 in 5 don't know the basics of finance. With me now having a 13-year-old who just turned 13, I was super excited last week to see his homework at his school, which talking about budgeting and percentages on how you should put your money. Me and him talking about it at home, but for at school to talk about it, I was very excited for it.
Yeah, absolutely. So 1 in 5 don't even have the basic skills to even start learning about financial literacy. So what else do you have for us?
74% of teens don't feel confident about their financial education. 46% of teens don't even know what a 401k is. And remember, when we say teens, this is from 13 to 19. So these people might even be adults already and don't know what a 401k plan is.
That's crazy.
32% of teens can't identify the difference between a credit card and a debit card.
Whew, that's wild.
Yeah, we have to definitely, we have to pay attention and talk to our kids about money and finance. 4 out of 5 parents wish they learned more about money as a kid. I know as a kid, my mother was an auditor, but I wish she sat down and talked a little bit more to us about budgeting and investing. And then 59% of parents are uncomfortable talking to kids about money. It's an important thing we need to have a discussion and talk about. But like I said, 59% of parents are uncomfortable talking to kids about money.
Wow, that's wild. And so if kids aren't getting it in school, and we know they're not, it's sort of, almost negligent how little they learn about money and finances and credit and debt and, balancing a budget and checkbooks and stuff in school. And if they're not getting it at home, you got to wonder where they're really getting it. Or if at all. So that's why some organizations that actually do some good to educate people, the culture around books and media and videos and YouTube that actually spreads positive educational messages about finance that empowers these teens and the next generation of consumers. We can't take our hats off to them enough, huh?
We can't. And as a parent, even if we don't feel comfortable with it or we're not confident in our own financial situation, it's highly important that we talk to kids about our own past money and financial mistakes that we might have done before so they don't make the same mistakes. If we do that, I think we might have better outcomes in the future, so our kids can do better financially than we will be, and or we are currently. We don't want them to make the same mistakes as us.
Yeah, that's very, very true. Well, definitely some scary stats about teens and financial literacy. And definitely we're looking to turn that around. I know that you do a ton of educational videos for adults. Youth could watch them, and they're all free on YouTube. And that's really a great thing. You do that just out of the kindness of your heart. So why don't you tell everyone what how they could find you on YouTube?
So if you guys can go on YouTube, look up my name, Jason Matthews, on YouTube, and it will pop up different videos I've done on money and finance. Another thing I love is when clients bring their kids into meetings with us so they can hear more about finances. It's another great thing. I really love parents who do that.
That's a great idea, huh?
Yeah, some parents feel like the kids shouldn't be in the room. Like, no, let the kids be in the room. They're going to listen and they're going to start understanding about money. And then I have certain parents who even have their kids, once they start working or just graduate college, start talking, having me sit down with them and talking about the basic things. So
that's a great idea. And I think when you look at educating youth or teaching kids to accept and adopt any topic, it's important first to expose them to it. Like, you don't have to sit down and make them an expert, at the kitchen table, but just get them comfortable with listening. And with anything, to me, it's all about the terminology. And if you could give them, that's the basics, the foundation that we talked about. If you could give them some basic definitions and how money works, and, definitely teach them about debt and interest versus compounding interest or compounding returns when you invest, and, just getting them familiar, and then they have something to build on.
So true. And one thing, a simple thing it could do, this is not part of our product of the day, but a good thing to do is when your kids first start working, even if you start working at 7, 8 years old, open up a Roth IRA and let them start investing in that Roth IRA. So give you an example, my son works for me every year. And with part of that, I recently opened up a Roth IRA. I'm allowing him to pick the stocks that are inside of that Roth IRA. And so he can learn how to invest to see what happens with losses or gains. And he's seen that at an early age compared to when he's an adult and not used to that.
Man, and you think about what kind of head start just for education, and education, is free, whether, kids could go on YouTube, there's Instagram channels on financial education. Like, these days, there's no excuse for, if someone wants to find something, they could find it in the world and educate themselves. But the difference between a kid going into college or even just graduating high school, knowing about these basic concepts and knowing about budgeting and not taking out a credit card and how you put money away early versus someone who doesn't, I mean, then you add 20, 30 years to it, and it's inevitable that people are really going to be way better off and have a more comfortable existence just from that early education.
True that.
All right, Mr. Jason, now on the Cream podcast, we're going to talk about something that we're on right now, a platform we're on right now, and many, many, many people used it in 2020, 2021, which is Zoom. Do you do a lot of Zoom meetings these days?
I do a lot of Zoom meetings these days. It's one of the most popular platforms to interact and talk to and communicate with people.
Yeah, it's really become a big part of all of our lives, virtually overnight. I know people used it, and before that it was Skype. But then with the pandemic, WebEx, but with the pandemic and, virtual work and working from home, it's just exploded. So Zoom actually just released some official statistics from 2021, and they might not be what you think. So I wanted to run these down and then have you guess the percentage.
Okay.
All right. So these are actual official stats from Zoom. I'm not making these up. What percentage of the time on Zoom video calls do you think someone was in their pajamas in 2021?
80% of the time.
80%. Get out of here.
50% down. If they include the 50% down, I call the Charles Barkley, because Charles was doing it before Zoom, when he was on TNT with just his boxers on. I'll say 80% of the time.
All right, let's bring that 80% down. So we won't include footwear, slippers, house shoes, flip-flops, just let's say just the top half, not even pants.
45%.
That's way too high. It was actually 2%. Only 2% of the time someone was in pajamas.
You guys are doing better than I thought in life.
But still, that's, 1 in 50. And you think about how many people use it for business. And this is video. So that's pretty crazy. But all right, how about this one? This is a fun one. What percentage of the time in Zoom calls or video conferences or meetings did a pet appear in the picture?
14% of the time.
36% of the time.
Hmm.
So we had a dog, a cat, I don't know what else you have in your house, but we had something show up and go into someone's screen almost, more than 1 out of every 3 times on Zoom. And speaking of photo bombs and unexpected guests, how many times did a child jump into the screen?
1 out of 5, 20% of the time.
43% of the time. Now, remember, this is like per meeting. So a meeting has multiple people, right? So it could be 20 people, it could be 10, it could be 2. So, one person, even if a child shows up in one person's screen during the meeting, it counts. But still, 43% of the time, a child photobombed, which is too funny.
Hey, Nora, what's the percentage of parents yelling at the children on Zoom because they didn't do their chores?
I think everyone is nice on Zoom because they don't want people to think they're mean. And then when Zoom is off, and then the tone changes, right?
Or they accidentally yelling on Zoom as a parent, forgetting that the kids in class.
Yeah, that's true. Or, like it happened even to a couple, I think newscasters, politicians, business people. I think it was NBC or CNN guy, and doing some things they shouldn't have been doing, and they didn't know Zoom was still on. So there's definitely been some mishaps, huh?
Definitely been a lot of mishaps. And
the last one, you could relate to this. 71% of the time someone said you're on mute.
That's it. I would think like 90. Excuse me, you're on mute.
You're on mute. I can't hear you. Can you hear me now? Yeah. So those are the official stats from Zoom for 2021. So 2 things in 2022. Hopefully we have to use it less, and hopefully we all understand it a little more.
A whole lot more.
All right, Jason. Now we're going to talk about something that's a historical trend when it comes to presidents, the economy, and administrations. Now, anything political these days is crazy. Are you Republican, Democrat? You're right, I'm wrong. You're right, I'm wrong. I'm right, you're wrong. Whatever. People arguing back and forth, they get crazy. But this is something that's a historical trend, so it doesn't matter if a Republican or a Democrat was in office. But it's the presidential sophomore slump. So tell us a little about that.
Yeah, if the current administration is facing their share of economic bad news and eyebrows raising doubts, they might not be alone. Actually, most presidents experience some type of what we call a sophomore slump. That's the conclusion of research from CFRA Research, a chief investment strategist, Sam Stovall, among others, who found that historically the second year of any president's term is typically 40% more volatile than the year earlier or the 2 years after. But Stovall also has some saving thoughts for Biden economic impact in 2022. He says, I think that 2022 is going to be a good year that tends to follow a great year, says Stovall.
That's great. So it's definitely a lot of people are saying the sky is falling for different reasons in the economy. And then you get some news that it's going great. Like we just talked about stock market. We talked about employment numbers are looking way up. But this is actually a presidential sophomore slump. Might be a historical trend and have less to do with the actual president, huh?
Right. Less to do with the president. I don't remember the last time we ever seen where a House or Senate has a slumped or a switch over, I should say, from one color to another since for any midterm election. I don't remember the last time it didn't happen. I remember it happened with Clinton, happened with Obama, it happened with Trump. It happened, I believe, in Bush era as well. So I don't remember when it has ever not happened in my lifetime.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you think about, the markets, the economy are so much about action, reaction, the brakes and the gas, if you will, of the economy and making corrections. And so it makes sense, the first year they get in and they institute a bunch of policies and a bunch of things change in the economy. And then you see the manifestation of that probably year two, and it probably becomes a little unbalanced, or they need the effect to roll over into the future years. But that's why I really judge the economy, judge the president, judge the policies on a larger scale, on 4 years.
I totally agree with you on that.
All right, Jason, now we're going to talk about something that's a key economic indicator of where our finances and where our world is really going. However, it's something you might not expect: shoplifting. So I have a key chart in front of me from Bloomberg Opinion, and this is what they said about it. And you're going to tell us more about the chart, but it basically covers the rise in shoplifting during the pandemic, and even before the pandemic, if I'm looking at these numbers. So this is what they said: Wall Street is desperately trying to figure out shoplifting, large and small, which tends to rise during times of crisis. As inflation makes things harder for families, retail theft data will be a telling gauge for consumer distress. For example, in the wake of the 2007 financial crisis and the recession afterwards, amid rampant job losses and spikes in prices for food and fuel, shoplifting surged. In the UK, people even started stealing fruit and vegetables growing in plots known as allotments. So basically, whenever the economy dives or goes into a recession, shoplifting spikes. It makes a lot of sense, but that's a pretty interesting economic indicator.
I can see that firsthand, especially here in the Bay Area, where we had a huge amount of flash mobs who broke into Union Square in San Francisco, stole tons of product. We've seen it in Walnut Creek, San Jose. We even see the pharmacies in Oakland where they just smash grab 50 people breaking into a store. So if that's an indicator, that means even though the previous section we talked about how one economist thought this was going to be a good year, if this is an indicator, it looks like it might be a bad year with all the break-ins and smashes that we just seen, not just in the Bay Area, but I know in LA, Chicago, where they have went to huge retailers and huge tourist and shopping areas, and they have done shopping grabs with tons and tons of people at once. So
that's an interesting tactic. I don't know where that started, but I guess they think, they're going to overwhelm one security guard and staff and so many people that I guess the cameras, they're not worried about the cameras because there's so many people. But I never even thought about that, the mass shoplifting. And it's different too, organized shoplifting. This chart that we're looking at makes the distinction: organized shoplifting versus just the average person just rolling in and throwing something in their pocket. But there was a huge increase in organized retail crime starting in 2015, which was interesting. And really from 2016 on, the curve just went straight up. So maybe we were even a little bit of economic trouble from 2015 or 16 on. It peaked about 2018, it looks like. And during the pandemic, it's actually come down. And so maybe that's because of, stimulus money and there's more aid available. And I'm not really sure why. Maybe less people in stores.
Yeah, I would say more stimulus, like you said. And also we had a period of time, if it goes by years, remember when COVID first happened, stores were completely closed.
Yep.
And everybody was locked down. Then you have the stimulus money. And I know there was tons and tons of those shoplifters went to people committing fraud on unemployment benefits and government aid programs, maybe. Because I know a lot of people were scheming and scamming. We're hearing left and right during all this free money. And now after that, all that free money has disappeared in government programs. Now it's like shoplifting could be going back up.
Yeah. And it's interesting to me that it peaked around 2018 though, but for reasons like you said, but this is again, organized shoplifting, retail crime. And so this is probably, mobs, syndicates, gangs, whatever, that are doing it, not just individuals. But all I know is I'm glad they didn't have these charts around when I was a kid, because I was a little kleptomaniac. I was terrible.
No, don't tell me that.
I don't know what the statute of limitations is. I should check that first, but you know what? I'd be the first one to turn myself in.
What do we know about Norm?
And now if you need to fire me from the Cream podcast, I totally understand. All right, Jason, now on the Cream podcast, you're going to do a shout out. Who would you like to give a shout out to today?
Yeah, let me give a shout out to my friend Josh Leverett with Cali K9. They just opened up a new facility in Hollywood, California for all the stars out there, as well as his new dog food brand is coming out. One of my good former workout buddies, but really still a good friend. Just want to give a shout out to Cali K9 with all the success with the new facility that they just opened up in Hollywood. So shout out to Josh and Cali K9.
Nice. What a great business, huh?
Real good business. And if you haven't seen him, you could catch him on Netflix. His show's K9 Intervention on there. So Josh's been doing some really good, big things. Great person to help you with your dog if you ever need some training. And I think he's starting to do some breeding as well.
Jason, as a financial advisor and running a whole investment firm, you see a lot of clients, a lot of different needs, goals, timelines, risk tolerances, and you have solutions for them many times in a product or service. So what's one of those products or services that you would like to highlight today?
Yes. Product I want to shout out today and acknowledge is considering using a fixed deferred annuity as an alternative to a CD and money market. I know a lot of people want to have money in CD and money markets because of the safety of it. But what I would tell you is you might want to consider a fixed deferred annuity if you have some money that you're not going to touch today. When you look at CD rates right now for a 5-year CD, as we record this, the average rate nationally is 1.35%. While fixed deferred annuity, which works very similar to a CD, but is given out by an insurance company, is currently giving a 3% over 1.35%. Also, unlike a CD or money market, there's no 1099s. Your money grows tax deferred. And at the same time, if you ever need to pull out any of the money within that 5 years, there's usually a 10 to 15% window where you could pull out that percentage of the account balance. Compared to a CD, if we ever need to pull out money, there's always going to be a penalty. So if you have any money like that, that's just sitting there, you have a CDs, consider looking at a fixed deferred annuity.
Great. Thank you so much for that product or service of the podcast. That's definitely some good information that could help a lot of people. All right, now on the podcast, we're going to have part 2 of Jason's interview with Querin Hamilton from Cure My Credit Scores. Querin's going to talk about business credit. Enjoy the interview.
Now, similar to the FICO and the Vantage on the personal, there are other models of, there are other indicators of business credit, but this is the most popular one. If you go on like nav.com, which is similar to kind of like Credit Karma, sign up for nav.com. You're in a
spell that?
NAV. No, I was in the military, November Alpha Victor. I knew that stuff were coming useful for something. Nav, like navigation, nav.com, and sign up for, I believe it's the business boost. It's like $31. Okay, this is your business. Go ahead and spend the $30. Stop trying to get it for free, because the free version ain't going to show you nothing. So sign up for the monthly subscription so you can actually see your report, actually see what's happening, and is it going up or down, and what's showing up and what's not. Okay.
Got it. So let me ask you this: if I now get you told me I can check this site. How often should you be checking your business score? Should it be annually, semi-annually? What do you recommend?
I would say initially, while you're building it, I would put it in alignment with you going over your books. So I would say at least monthly. And then maybe when you've established good business credit, let's look at it quarterly. But as you're building, I would say monthly, only because you want to see if the tactics that you're using to build it are working or not. Did it go up and down? Did that make it better? Did it increase 5 points when I got that line of credit? Or so you can learn how your moves are affecting your credit while you're building your business credit. Same thing with personal, but definitely with business. And then once we get it sustained, now that I have over 700 on my personal scores, I only look at it like once a quarter. And I keep my monitoring on to make sure no crap is happening, but I don't look at it once a month like I did when I was fixing it.
Got it. So you're saying every month, pay that $31, go to nav.com. Upon that, every time I check my books on a monthly basis until I build it up, looking to see what I could do. What are some basic things I could do If I do have one credit card, what are some basic things where I could just turn up and get my credit score jumping for the business credit so I can get that big $500 to $1 million line of credit that we all want as small business owners so we can blow up.
Right? So in the ramp up stage, like I said, a lot of people don't want to be associated. They want to do it the easy way. You can start building credit with your business only. But here's an example. If you go out and get you start with the Home Depot card and you just do it with your business. Your business is a baby in credit, so you may get like $500. If you co-sign for it, Querin co-signs for Querin Incorporated, I have a 750 credit score, I may get $15,000 to start with. So instead of building up to that million from 500, I can start building it from 15,000 because I am the guarantor and I am not high risk because I've clearly been taking care of my personal. I look like I'm gonna take care of my business a little better. So that would be number one. Don't start from the bottom because you're like, I only want to be straight business credit, and I don't want to be a part of it and da 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 da. Plus it'll hold you accountable because if you know this is affecting that, you might act a little better on both sides, knowing that one thing is affecting the other. So that would be the first thing I would do. And I would just pay attention to how you build that. Now, too much credit on the personal side is harmful, like doing it too fast and doing too much of it. On the business side, apply. You want that $300,000 worth of credit. So that's what we're working with over here, is adding as much as you can in a healthy way, because it's at the point where you can slide off and your business has credit. You no longer have to co-sign. You can just keep applying and doing the right thing. Now, what's the right thing? When you have a business card and or a line of credit, they may give you terms, and those terms may be at first pay 30-day terms. You have to pay in 30 days. So on this side, we're trying to work to get those to be longer, like maybe 90 days, what they call net 90, net 30, net 45, right? Your job is to pay that early, showing them like, we're doing well. Not only are we paying you on time, we're paying you 5 days early. So if I had a net 30 account, I would pay it in net 25. If I had a net 45 account, I would pay it in net 40, and so on and so forth, so that they can see that we're not struggling to the last minute at midnight trying to get that money out to you.
Got it. Okay. Now, I know I've been hearing more about banks doing secure cards for businesses. Mm-hmm. What's the pros and cons of doing a secure business card to get somebody started with
them holding your money?
So they're holding your bands, y'all. They're holding your bands. Okay.
Yeah. That's the only con on both sides of credit with them. I'm not a fan of them holding more money than they need to. Okay. I've had folks on the personal side going, I'm saving up $2,000 so I can get a secured card. And that means that they're going to take the money and hold the money to be the collateral because your scores aren't good enough to do it. And then when you use the card, you still are going to make payments. You're not taking it off of that money like a prepaid card. So on the personal side, if you do that, I tell people just do $200. Like, don't worry about doing thousands of dollars because they ain't making no interest, and they're not going to return you $3,000 when you get done in 2 years improving yourself. So you can still, we've supported people with growing their credit from $200 deposit. So if what you want to do to start your business credit is to secure it, that is fine, but you do not have to do, maybe on the business side, you may do $1,000 just to get it started. And don't be hard on yourself. When you're starting this credit out, you're like, that's not enough to do what I need to do. You have to start somewhere. So if you're not getting approved for the $15,000, the $20,000 cards, the $50,000 cards, you have to start. At least start so you can get there eventually to use the type of business capital and leverage it from your credit that you want to.
Got it. And then now I know a lot of us small business owners, we took advantage. We got the PPP, we got the EIDL loan during this period of time of COVID. How did that affect people's business credit? Did it help boost up the scores? Did it help it lowered it because now everybody see they're at risk or they had issues because they took some of this government money? What's your thoughts on that for a small business and how it affects people business?
So I did it myself. I did the PPP. I did not do the EIDL. The only thing I noticed personally was that it showed up as an inquiry. So the loan itself did not show up on my credit. The US government something, I forgot the name, how it shows up. The inquiry showed up and that was all. So it wasn't a detriment in terms of like, hey, you got this $12,000, however many, about $20,000, $40,000 I've heard people getting loan on your credit. So I haven't experienced a personal deficit in getting that. And I just did my PPP forgiveness last week. So it's funny you brought that up. Make sure you do that if you haven't done it already. It's real easy. It took me like 5 minutes to do the PPP forgiveness application. But yeah, I would not do it specifically to PPP. The EIDL has a little bit more entanglement going on. So I would consult someone before doing that one. But the PPP was like easy in, easy out.
Definitely. Now, if somebody wants to get in contact with you, might need your help, tell them a little bit more about how you helped out your clients and how they can contact you or reach out if they would do want or need your services.
Yeah, sure. So I am Querin Hamilton with the Q at Cure My Credit Scores. And the best number to reach us is 1-800-707-5022. And we will get you set up with a consultation, go over where you are, wherever you want to start from. You got a little bit of business credit, none at all. You need to get your personal credit together to do it. Wherever you're at, we'll meet you where you are to get you going on your journey of enhancing your business and making using business credit to elevate your business to another level. So if you're doing hair or you got weaves or you got food store or supply company, whatever you want to do, business credit will take you to another level because that's what it's built for. That's what it built for. It will help relieve the stress of what you've been trying to do out of your personal bank account, and it will delineate. We want to delineate. So I want you to call us so we can help you elevate your life and elevate your business.
Cool. Thank you so much for getting on the Cream podcast. I really do appreciate it. Coming all the way from the East Coast out of Maryland. Thank you so much, Cream. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you, Jason, and thank you for inviting me to Cream. This was super dope. I've been chasing you. I've been wanting to be on this show. This is hot. I'm just gonna be like I was on here when, okay?
Thanks. I appreciate it.
All right, Jason, that wraps up episode 9 of the Cream podcast. What would you like to say to the people?
Hey, everybody, shout out. I want everybody to tell everybody stay positive this time. Take care of your health. I know right now we're going through this uptick in COVID. I think one thing we have to do, though, is still take care of ourselves, which means let's eat right, let's work out, let's stay positive and happy during these challenging times.
Absolutely. Good advice. Thank you, everyone, for listening to the Cream podcast. Cream.
Dollar bills, y'all.